to grow. They have lots of things to do. And it's very easy to forget or also not have the time to plan for how each component works and optimize it. And that's what I focus on, is making sure each part is efficient and ultimately optimized. And when you optimize, a lot of good things come out of that.
Yeah. So my family, again, since that's the only thing I know about businesses is my family's businesses. We own a storage facility, and then I own a wedding venue. And my kids are, in their 30s, and they're thinking about, we're going to have to run these things. And my daughter came up to me the other day and said, "Hey, where is the binder on how to run your wedding venue?" And I went, "What?" Yeah. And she said, I need a binder. And then we own some real estate properties. And she said, "I don't even know where they are." And I thought, wow, we really need some SOPs, how things are done. What do we do like for mine, what do I do when a bride calls me? What templates do I send out? What procedures do I do? How do I get them to come down and tour my properties? And I never realized until she sat and asked me that, how it broke down in her head was so different than how it broke down in my head.
Yeah, that's a big key. And I'm bringing Lori back into this conversation again.
Good.
Because trust planning is so critical.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do it, what's the nightmare for the family, right? Same thing with a business. In this case, an example would be someone leaves the company for whatever reason, they pass away, they move, and then a new person comes in. Then here's the job, go do it.
We've done that to Becca.
I didn't want to go there. Maybe that's another segment.
No.
But so what do they do? And there's anxiety, there's fear, there's you're at the seat. What's that phrase? You're just trying to figure things out.
Mm-hmm. Because you don't know what you don't know.
Yes,
yeah.
Right. Now you're qualified for the job, right? You're an accountant, an engineer, or whatever position you hold. You're qualified, but still, how does that company do it? There's the company way. Those things need to be laid out. Otherwise, again, there's guessing. And so guessing and fear and anxiety, there's lots of things that cause delay, and profits suffer, productivity suffers. And usually someone doesn't come up and say, "Hey, I don't know how to do my job."
Well, and for me, I'm from a large corporation before I retired from Thermo Fisher Scientific, which always had somebody there to take care of that,
Right.
to transition the next person in, to give them all the
Mhm.
SOPs, to say, this is how we do it. Here's your binder, and it made a huge difference. Small companies, they don't do that because it's all in their head. It's in their family. My kids didn't even know where the folding chairs were. They're like, "Well, where are the folding chairs?" I was like, "What?" So yeah, simple stuff.
Yeah, and even
procedurally.
you mentioned folding chair. And the simplest details. Details matter.
Yeah.
So there's 2 books that are written. One is Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and the other ones that most people don't hear about is Sweat the Small Stuff, or Sweat the Details. When you're talking about business and process and procedures, you sweat the details, because the details is where things either go well or they don't go well. It's also where innovation happens. Once you get a process or procedure in place and it's working, that's when innovation can occur, because they know their job, they know the process, they know how it works, and now they can sit back and think, how can I do this better? You can't ask those questions until you get a process down and do it over and over, see that it works. Then you can improve.
Well, and you can't do it until you write it down.
Right.
Until I document it, until I started documenting the steps that I do from the time a bride calls me and wants a tour. That's when my daughter said, "I want to know from the time somebody picks up the phone and calls you." And I thought, wow,
Right.
I have templates. I have template letters. I have, templates that explain my business that I send out. And then I have follow-ups. And she kind of looked at me and she was like, "Well, how do you know when to send those?" And you're right. It's just writing it down and getting a good team, like a business consultant, an attorney, an accountant, and having all that, and my funeral planner, and having all that available to your heirs or to the transition. It seems like it would make it so much easier. So if you can give me some examples of systems and take those systems and how do you optimize them?
Well, the second one's a big one to answer, but the first one is interesting from the perspective of, are we aware that the things around us are all systems? So when you look up the sun, the moon, the stars, they're all systems. Now they run by themselves. God runs them. He doesn't need our help. They're perfect and efficient. But then think of a light bulb, think of a computer, think of a car, think of a bulldozer, right? Think of the human body.
And how the technology changes.
Technology, well, that's scary if you're talking about the human body.
Yeah.
That's another time.
Well, even then, even the human body.
But all of those are systems, they all eventually break down. And you have to maintain them. You have to, nutrition for the body, right? A car, obviously things break, you pay for those things. Those things have to be focused on in terms of maintaining, but also if you look at the car, the evolution of a car, they've improved not only how to manufacture that car more efficiently, but even how the car operates. All of those are systems. There's thousands of them. One of the things I do with clients is I walk them through the making of a pair of jeans.
Oh, okay.
And, we go to the store, we buy a pair of jeans. We go online, just go buy a pair of jeans, and we're done. But can you imagine, like, if we actually had to make them ourselves? And it's a longer story, but you've got to you start with, say, cotton. Right?
Yeah.
Well, where's cotton come from?
You got to pick it.
There's a field, you got to plant it, you got to pick it, you got to harvest it. You've got to then turn it into what? Yarn or thread. Right?
And you got to dye it.
You got to dye it. And I have a picture of dye pits. I have no idea if they're Bangladesh or where they come from.
But they're dye pits.
They're dye pits. Yeah. So then there's zippers, and that's copper. Where do you get copper?
Oh, yeah.
You've got to go and
mine it.
Mine it. And all of that. There's thousands of systems just enough of that. You need energy. You have to ship the stuff, right? Shipping involves all of that. Energy involves all of that. There's thousands of systems
logistics of it, yes.
Just for a pair of jeans. And there's so many things you can drill down. So I try to give a perspective on the importance of what systems are so people don't take things for granted, but they also look at details more.
Rick, what are going to be the benefits or the outcomes after improving your system?
Well, and I often talk about business owners, but it's any organization, right? When you have greater efficiency, things work better. That usually means that there's less conflict in the organization. People communicate more effectively, which is a system in and of itself. How do we communicate?
How do we communicate? That's it.
In every circumstance, it's so funny, you mentioned earlier about picking up the phone. How do you pick up that phone? What's the first thing you say?
You dial it.
Well, if you're receiving a call.
Oh, if you're receiving, yeah.
Yes. But yeah, if you're calling out, yes, you got to dial it. But receiving that call, what do you say? And consistently, what is the message?
That's right.
And is it inviting? Is it effective? Does it make a person feel warm and welcome? So all of those lead to better communication, a clearer vision. So I start with a business owner from the top down. Do you have a clear vision of your company? If you don't have that, then start there. Now, again, every business owner I would ask probably says, yeah, I have a pretty clear vision. Let's say, where is it? It's in here. Usually it's in the head. So we get it down on a one page, we get it down on a piece of paper. And so you get a clear vision. Then you want to make sure that all of your operating principles, I call them, are in place, which directs all decision-making. Everyone comes to a company with their own beliefs, right? Their own way of thinking, which is good for creativity, for innovation, but sometimes they can go in many different directions. A business owner's responsibility is to say, this is how we do things around here. Then creativity can happen, but at least they have guidelines and know where to go. So everyone's rowing in the same direction.
Yeah.
Think of a clock or a watch, has all those gears in it, coming back to the name. Hundreds of gears or whatever, say it's 30, 40 gears. That's an incredible thing where they all work in sync. That's the goal, getting everything work in sync. Then productivity, profitability, all the kind of boring things that you would expect to hear from me, but it's all true. Productivity, profitability, all will improve if you focus on improving your systems in each part of them.
Well, and I've noticed that new people coming on board into any of, at least our businesses, do have their own way, and they do, let us know, especially if they're young, they let us know that they can do it better. And they don't realize that we've already been down that rabbit hole.
Yep.
We've already done that rabbit hole. And so I have to spend some time explaining, thanks so much, but we've already been down that rabbit hole. And this is this method that we use now is why, is what came out of that.
Sometimes documenting what hasn't worked is not a bad idea either for the folks who come in all with great energy and enthusiasm and creativity. And it's not to make them feel bad.
Or to shut them down at
Or
all.
shut them down. It's this is what we've done. This is what works the best. Here's some things we tried and they haven't worked. So even documenting things that haven't worked isn't a bad idea either.
Yeah.
Also, one other quick thing with business owners, there's a big key. Freedom is, I think, a word that's probably too abused, but at the same time, it's an important factor when it comes to business owners. What do they want to be working on? It's not freedom to not work in the business. That's always a choice. But the real key for business owners is many of them, or too many of them, are working too much in their business and in things they're not good at or don't like. So my big focus too is also help them work more on their business and on the things they like or in the things they like and less in it. That's a big key with systems. Systems so that the company can run itself is the end game.
Well, and having a good team. I mean, I know that it's taken me a while to finally find a good team of people that do the different things that I hate to do, that they love to do.
Yep. Amen.
And it makes a huge difference in my business.
Yep. Yes, it does.
Rick, what type of business or organization benefits the most from your type of work?
Well, it's not type of companies. Any organization or company can benefit. It's really the person. In other words, if a person's a do-it-yourselfer, they're going to take information that I might give them and go try to do it themselves, but they don't often achieve what they want because they're too control-oriented. So they have to be willing to delegate, right?
And that's hard. Letting go is hard.
Very hard. Another thing is just the person has to truly want to commit some time. This is additional to what they're already doing. But the reality is I'm trying to think of the phrase, perspiration versus execution. That's not the right wording, but how much time you put into planning versus actually executing. For a business owner, it should be 80-20, 80 in planning, 20 execution. For the team, the employees, it's going to be the reverse. But even team members should be doing some planning. And a lot of them just focus on execute. Like that's what productivity means. False, So you have to be dedicated to give some time to this. And it's not all the time with the business owner. I spend more time up front with the business owner and then more time with the employees after that.
Yeah, because that's my biggest problem is that I have all the knowledge in my head. And when I do let it go, I'm so worried that they're not going to do it the way I want it done because I don't have it in writing.
Right.
So they would have no idea how I want it done unless I actually spend the time and hours of training them saying, okay, I want my corners done like this. I want this done like this. Fold this napkin like this.
But if you don't do that training or planning up front, and there's ways to do it smart, you're going to keep repeating yourself. And my father, when I was young, I was an emotional kid, and he'd look at me and he was all common sense. And I just didn't understand. He said, what do you want me to spell it out?
Yeah.
And I'd look at him, and say, yeah, please do. Because, in fact, if I knew what I knew today, I'd say, Dad, can you please document that?
Yeah.
Because it helps me understand exactly what to do so I won't screw it up. Everybody's happy.
It is all about the mechanics of it.
Yep.
Well, thank you. So you can reach Rick at gearsbizsolutions@gmail.com. Is that correct, Rick? Did I get that right?
B-I-Z, Gears,
Okay.
B-I-Z Solutions, yes.
And you can receive a copy of the questions to develop your strategic objective along with his information organization guide if you send him an email. And also, or do you want to tell us a little bit? You'll send them a copy also of a book if they get in contact with you?
Yeah, if they get in contact with me, spend 30 minutes with me and I'll send them a link to set it up. So get know a little bit about their business and make sure that I can be of value to them, real value. And if I can and they're interested, then I'll send them a copy of the book because then at that point it's worthwhile for them to read. But I would say, Work the System is the book. It's the foundation for how I got certified and came into this business. I have to give a shout out to Greg Grasden, who's a local business owner. Government Marketing and Procurement is his company. Greg is the reason why I'm here. He's a business owner, an entrepreneur who gave me a shot to get into a completely different field that most of my background, 35 years, is in the financial industry. So this was something, I wanted to do something different. I didn't even know exactly what that was. And he gave me an opportunity to focus on systems, something completely new to me. And if I didn't read this book and get certified, I would have no real guide for myself. So a big shout out to him. But if they call me, I'll give them a copy of that book if they spend a little bit of time.
Well, I just sent you my request for your questionnaire because I'm definitely at that point where I'm not as small as I was 2 years ago. not growing as fast as I thought I would 2 years from then. So yeah, I would love to sit down and talk to you and see what we can come up with in the wedding world.
Yep, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Rick and Laurie, for being our guests on this Tuesday for Chamber Chat.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.